Hi everyone, welcome to Training with Kayce, where we explore animal training and living our best lives with animals. I'm Joseph Laughlin, producer of this podcast, and now here's your host, Kayce Cover. Let's get started.
It's Kayce Cover, and I'd like to talk about e-collars, or electric collars, or some people call them remote collars or shock collars. And I'd like to talk about them from my perspective as someone, I don't even use them. I'm an exotic animal trainer. I can't use them with exotic animals, so I don't even want to get involved. I'd rather hone my skills so that I can train with no other devices. And nonetheless, I'm interested in how people use e-collars. And I've been blessed to have colleagues that I really respect that do a beautiful job. They are so subtle and gentle and sophisticated in their use of the collars that you never even see the animal react. The most that you see is something like this, where the animal, you can tell they're registering something just happened. So they'll be, like on their own agenda, and then all of a sudden you'll see them go like this. And a lot of times they'll move toward the person that has the e-collar control. I don't know if there's some way that they can link it, or if they just know that that person subtly touched them and they were the new thing in the environment, right? So that this new situation was probably coming from them. So I want to talk about one such case, and it was an over-the-top Weimaraner, and he had 6 people in his family, and there was concern that the dog might be too rough. There was going to be a newborn in the family very soon. And so the trainer put the e-collar on the dog, and the dog was romping around, just being totally out of control. And he activated the collar for just an instant. And the dog just goes, da, 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 da. And then he looks at the trainer, and then he quietly moves behind him and just sits there and watches. The owners were astounded. I suspect they'd never seen their dog be thoughtful and careful before. Soon after, the trainer took the collar off the dog and put it on each family member, one after another. He put the studs right against the heel of the hand, and then he proceeded to stimulate the collar, and if the person couldn't feel it, he'd raise it one level and try it again. Now the dog worked with no corrections at a level 6. He just barely sensed the collar, and that was enough to call him to thought. The owner, the most sensitive owner, could not even feel the collar until level 11. And the least sensitive owner didn't feel it till level 21. They didn't even feel it. I didn't say they didn't feel pain until level 11 or level 21. They didn't know there was a collar activated until they got to that level. Yet their dog was working at a much lower level. So I found that really interesting, and I found it really beautiful, because here's this dog that was about to lose his home because the people had to be responsible about their pregnant daughter and the baby that was coming. And they had been told by other trainers that it was so terrible to use an e-collar. Not to use an e-collar incorrectly, just to use an e-collar. That their dog was better off dead than ever allowing anyone to try to help it using an e-collar. The owners were in tears. They didn't want to lose their dog. And they were confused. They didn't understand how what they just saw could be considered so cruel. And rightly so, it wasn't cruel at all. It wasn't cruel at all. It quickly, instantly saved this dog's home and possibly his life. There was nothing cruel about it. I believe it was irresponsible of the other trainers to make a blanket statement to bolster their own ideology rather than the dog and the family's safety. However, I wasn't satisfied there. I wanted to know what it was like. So I asked the trainer if I could put the collar on and see like what is the lowest level that I could work. If I were the dog, what level could I hear? And so I didn't hear it at the first level. I didn't hear it at the second level. At the third level, so I put my finger up. Ooh. This is all at the third level. So it's not like he was going up in intensity. He said, Kayce, there's no way you can feel that. That is so low, nobody can feel the third level. I said, well, maybe I'm not. I'll put my finger up every time, and you know whether or not you're pushing the button. So tell me if it's accurate or not. Ding, 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 ding. He says, dang it, I think you're wired weird. Worse things have been said about me. I could feel it, and it was much lower than he expected me to be able to feel it. But when he checked it, I was indeed accurately telling him when the collar was being innervated. And to tell you the truth, I didn't feel any pain at all. In fact, all I felt was a little bit of pressure right here, like, I don't know, almost like if somebody turned the heat on right here. It wasn't exactly like that, but if somebody had an air pillow pressing against your head, maybe that's. And I would get a little twitch right here in my eyebrow. Nothing that was directly related to these two prongs at all. And yet, that's what consistently told me when the e-collar was being activated. And you know what else? I really disliked the e-collar. I really disliked it. It didn't hurt. I really disliked it. So why? If it didn't hurt, why didn't I like it? Because it stopped me. I have been told by scientists, and I don't know if there's further research to, kind of expand our understanding of it, but that because the e-collar is a charge, that it affects all the receptors, and therefore it's confusing. It innervates pain, pressure, position receptors, whatever else. And therefore, it's very confusing for the animal. What I felt like is kind of like I'm trying to run and something turned my power off all of a sudden. Like I'm mid-thought, mid-action, ding, I lost my ability to continue my function. I got interrupted. That I found really disturbing. Further, this person, as great as he was at deftly and subtly using this e-collar, he never told me or the other dog what we needed to do. We never got a job description first. We just got a call to action. Hey, there's more where this comes from. Might be one way of thinking of it. But we didn't even know that, right? Because he hadn't actually given either of us a correction or any pain or even any discomfort. But it's just knowing that somebody is kind of like in your head that's really off-putting for me. And I complained. I said, I don't like that. Tell me what I need to do in order to prevent that from happening again. And he looks at me like, hello, you just need to turn the e-collar off. How? By doing what I want you to do, which is what? When you're doing, when you're just on your own, you could be doing any one of millions of things. You could be holding your muscles in any combination of ways. You can be thinking about things. You could be listening. You can be smelling. You can be tasting. You can be analyzing something. Which one of all those things does he want? How long will it take me to figure out what he wants? Just because I don't want to have one of these other shocks. I found it extremely frustrating. And it's probably a really good thing because I've always been very pro information share. Like I talk to all my animals. I talk to them in English. I teach them English vocabulary. If I'm in Germany, I teach them German vocabulary. I explain everything before we do it. I demonstrate it. I want to give that animal a job description before I start criticizing their performance. How can I criticize something that I never even told them that I was looking for? It just doesn't seem right to me. So, I didn't like e-collars. But I might like them in the future. And let me tell you what I'm thinking about. First of all, I've got to get past something that a lot of people don't realize or think about. And that is that a lot of dogs don't mind the electrical stimulation anywhere near as much as they mind vibration, if you set the collar on vibration. But a collar on vibration can be so incredibly useful. Or a collar on e-stim. Very, very useful when you're working with blind dogs and deaf dogs. Or dogs that get so focused on their own agenda that they simply are not tuned into the environment and they run into the street. That's why a lot of hunting dogs have e-collars on them. What about if you're working at a great distance from your dog? What if you're in search and recovery and your dog goes out way ahead of you? And that's fine. But then you need to ask him to stop and wait for you or something like that. It might be possible to use something like Morse code to give your dog information via the e-collar. Maybe it could be like a cell phone. Wouldn't that be cool? Just thoughts. I think they're kind of neat thoughts. Consider it. And remember to be open-minded and thoughtful before you make judgments about tools or about your colleagues or about how things work. See you next time.
Thanks for joining us. Come back for more news and views on animal training and living with animals. Stay at the top of the pack with Kayce. This is Joseph Laughlin, producer of Training with Kayce. See you next time.